morning, ladies. How are you this morning? Welcome, welcome. We are coming live this morning for something brand new that we are having in this group, and we are coming live for our Showcase Your Biz Members Spotlight interview. Now, this is something that I am introducing because I really want, like I said, this group, I've said before, this group isn't about me, it's about you ladies. And me helping you, but I also want to give you opportunities to be able to showcase yourself and to be able to come and share, in a live environment, your story and about what you do in your business. So for our very first guest today, we have the amazing Annie Bourke, who is an animal communicator. So I'm really excited to interview Annie today for a couple of reasons. One, because I'm fascinated by what she does. Absolutely fascinated, Annie. And also, that there's a personal reason as well. So welcome, Annie. Lovely to have you here today.
Thank you very much, Ali, and I appreciate the invitation and having a chance to let some people know some things they may not know about their animals.
I feel that this is going to be, a really interesting discussion, and a lot of people are going to learn a lot from you. So let's just go with tell us more about what you do, because I don't personally know of a lot of people that do what you do.
Okay, so animal communication is a process where it's telepathic. So you're not actually saying anything out loud when you're talking to the animals. So no one would know that I was having a conversation with an animal if I'm just standing there looking at them, if I'm out in a zoo and having a conversation with animals. And it's something that we all do when we're little. So if you look at little kids, they actually squat right down with the animal and they'll tell the humans, the adults, what's going on. And the adults say, oh, yeah, very nice. But they actually have that channel open. So they're getting genuine information from the animal. And then something happens as we get older and that channel just closes off. But the exciting news is that we can reopen it again, and it just opens a whole new world when you understand what your animal's trying to tell you. I felt for ages that my cats could understand everything that I was saying, and I wanted to know what they were trying to tell me, and it was extremely frustrating. And then one of my cats that I had suddenly passed away after a very short illness, and I thought, I really have to find out about this animal communication. I want to know for when I get more animals. So anyway, I had a look online to try and find some animal communication courses, and I found this course that was running in Melbourne, and the picture on the front page was the exact image of my cat. And I thought, wow, is that a sign or is that a sign? So I thought, she's just guiding me to what I'm meant to do. So I started the course, and it was really interesting because it's tuning into the frequency or the energy or the soul, however you want to absorb that information of the animal, and then asking permission to be able to talk to them, because it's a free will thing. So if they don't want to talk, they don't have to. I can't force them to answer the questions. It's what they want to answer. The other thing is that they understand everything that we say. So even though you might think they're not, they do. They may not choose to obey your instructions, but they certainly take it in. So it is very important to remember just to think about the words that you're using, because all of our words have a vibration as well. So if we're saying something negative or saying something derogatory about them, that will impact them. So when we understand, it changes what we say to them. But also once they know that you know that they understand you and you understand them, which is very complicated, it changes the whole relationship. And I spoke to someone recently and she was just astounded, and she started talking to her dogs differently now that she knows that they understand what she's saying. And she said their behaviour's changed already. And that's was just thinking more carefully about what she says and how she says it. So it can make a real difference. So anyway, with my cats, I had 2 cats that I was practicing with. They were so patient with me. And I had to do little exercises, sending them words or images, and then they'd do the same thing to me. The other thing they can do is actually send you little images of what they're trying to say. Fortunately, every animal I've spoken to all around the world understands me when I'm talking English, which is a relief. But sometimes I don't understand what they're trying to say with answering the question. So then I just say, can you show me? And then I'll get this little video snippet in my head, and I don't understand how they do that, but then I can just see what they're trying to tell me. So
Fascinating.
my first boy cat who was teaching me about that, I said, what are your favourite times of the day? And he showed me the opening of the internal door in my garage coming home from work. So that was one of his favourite times of day when I was coming back from work.
Came home from work, oh my goodness, how cute, wow.
And then the other thing he loved doing was jumping up on my lap, because he was a real lap cat. And of course I gave him lots of Reiki and crystal therapy and essential oils as well. So, but they were the two things that he showed me. So he showed me rather than telling me. I did speak to an emu at a zoo, and he came right up to the fence to talk to me, and he went woof, 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 woof. And I'm thinking, he's talking emu. I don't understand emu. So I just said to him, can you please tell me that in English, or can you show me, because I can't understand what you're saying? And then he spoke in English. So, and some of them are just really sophisticated. They really understand the English language very well. I was speaking to a lady's cat, and she wanted to know why he liked playing with water in his water bowl. And a lot of cats do, and they just love splashing it out everywhere. So he told me his reason, and I said, oh, is there anything else you want to tell Mum? And he said, does she want an existential expose on the physics of displacing a volume of water?
Oh my Lord.
And I just thought, oh my God, he's been a professor in a past life. That was just totally unexpected. And you just never know what they're going to say. They all speak in individual voices like humans, so they've got all different tones. I can tell when they're smiling by the sound of the voice. I've had them laughing, and I've had a horse sing her answers to me, and that was totally unexpected. So it's really having an open mind and just being receptive, and trying to tune into the frequency. And then you have to do the introduction and ask permission to talk to them. And then they're usually very excited, like that they haven't been exposed to a human who can talk animal before. So I get, wow, gee, awesome. And someone, oh, that's weird, like they're just not expecting it. But usually they're just absolutely thrilled that their humans have wanted me to have a conversation and find out things about them.
I think that's interesting, isn't it, too? Because, you know, you're saying how, you know, you said how our words affect them. I love that. And would you equate it to maybe, you know, like if someone in a baby, like, or in a child, you know, like, so what you say about that child, about that kid or that baby affects them, right? And it does the same to animals. And I don't think that we would realize that, would we? You know, it's almost like we as animal owners take it for granted. On the other side of that, you know, that we had a little beautiful pussycat, and people used to, especially my kids, used to laugh at us because we used to literally speak to her like a child. She was our baby, and we spoke to her as our baby, and she reacted like she was our child. It was fascinating.
Yep. So the point you made about the animals hearing what we're saying, I spoke to a crocodile in a zoo one time, and she said, we have feelings, we think we're beautiful. So she'd obviously heard people saying something that wasn't very flattering, and it hurt them. So that's how much it impacts them. And yes, with the baby thing, yes, a lot of people refer to them as their fur kids, but it was really funny because when I went overseas one time for about 6 weeks, I did have a kitten who was a lot younger than my other two who'd been talking to me. And so I did call him my baby, and I was talking to him every day while I was away. And before I came back, he said, I'm not the baby anymore, I'm big. And when I opened up the door, when I came home, he'd had an adolescent growth spurt, and he looked nearly as big as the older cats. I'm thinking, oh my God. So sometimes they tolerate being called a baby, and sometimes they do know what you mean. But once they get to a certain age, baby might be a term that they don't particularly like anymore. And the other thing I found is sometimes they don't like their names. And they'll tell me. Yes.
How do you know that?
Because they tell me.
And how do you think they would communicate it, or are they able to communicate it to an owner in that case? I mean,
I don't know. I spoke to a cat called Mighty, spelled Mitey, and the first thing she told me was that she didn't have an infestation. So she thought she'd been named for mites, and she was really offended by that. And so she picked all these oldie worldy names like Prunella and Penelope and all sorts of things, which she thought would be much more appropriate. And then I spoke to a male cat who'd been called Phantom Menace after Star Wars. So he was called Menace for short. He didn't like that either because it just got a negative connotation every time you hear it. it's got that energy, and that just affects their energy field, the same as if someone says something hurtful to us, that affects us. So it's just been really eye-opening finding out what they really think and helping people.
I am absolutely fascinated with what you do. So you've spoken a lot about just now about animals who are still with us,
living,
right?
yes,
living animals.
Mm-hmm.
What's the difference between like animals who are living animals and spirit animals, or is there a difference in how they communicate with you?
No, because I'm connecting with the energy, the essence of the soul. It doesn't matter if they're in spirit or they're living. So my understanding from my years of experience now with communicating with people and animals on the other side is that although the physical body's not there anymore, the soul endures. It's forever and ever. And once we pass over, whether we're human or animal, we go through a healing process. And then once that soul is strong enough, they're able to come back and visit on an energetic level. And I've just had so many people now experience this, and I've experienced it myself. When the animal comes back to visit you, like they feel the separation and the grief just as much as we do, and they can't come and physically comfort us, but they can come back and visit us. So sometimes they take on the form of their physical body just so we can recognise them when we see them. Sometimes we hear them. So my girl, when she passed over, used to come back and I could hear her meowing. Some people feel them jumping on the bed. Some people feel them snuggling against them or feel a little paw patting them on the face. One of my friends, her dog came back in the middle of the night, and that's normally when they come in the early hours of the morning, and he jumped on the bed with such force he knocked 2 pillows off. And she thought he was really there, and she put a hand out to touch him, and of course she couldn't feel him. But that's the energy that they can bring through, which is just incredible. And it gives so much peace to people just to know that, yes, the soul endures, that love relationship you've had just endures. And so they'll come back and visit you, and you can say out loud, I'd love you to come and visit me. They'll hear that. One of my cats used to love playing with my hair when he was little, and he'd sit on my pillow and he'd be massaging my head, not putting his claws in, but just massaging. And so when he comes now, that's what he does. He comes and just very gently starts playing with my hair, so I know that he's there.
Wow.
So,
do you mind, and you're allowed to say no to this, right? I have had some experiences with, and in the last couple of months, with my little fur baby who passed away. She passed away about just over a year ago now.
Mm-hmm.
And I've had some experiences lately. Do you mind if I ask you about them? Because it's almost like we're giving a live example to the people who are watching this. So this is really good. And I'm not going to lie, it's probably going to answer a lot of unanswered questions for me. So we have this beautiful little cat in our neighbourhood. And her name is Daisy. The name of my cat was Shadow. And Daisy, since Shadow has passed, she is quite regularly coming to visit us, which is something that she wouldn't have done in the past. And it feels like, and this is one question I want you to answer. It feels like a part of Shadow is now in Daisy, right? Now, just further to this, and this is where it's all going to come together. So I had a dream the other night about Daisy at our front door, and she wanted to come in. And I said to her, I'm sorry, Daisy, you don't live here, so you can't come in. And then as I turned around from the front door, I saw Daisy curled up in my lounge room, and right behind her was Shadow curled up, both looking at me. So I know the meaning that I want to take out of that. Do you read anything into that as an animal communicator?
Yep, I went all buzzy when you were saying about part of Shadow in her, and that's something that I've experienced as well, that sometimes for some reason animals decide to swap souls. So a new soul can swap into that body if someone wants to leave and make way for them. That has happened. The other thing that has happened, they get a reaction with that. The other thing that's happened, which I've discovered personally and now with a lot of my clients, is that sometimes our animals do reincarnate in our lifetime. So it's not every animal's destiny to come back, but I've just had so many people now where their animal is just coming back. So it's as though our souls and their souls just keep interweaving through lifetimes. but even in one lifetime. So I know 3 people now who that one soul has come back in 3 different bodies to be with them. And it's such a gift when they come back, and it just changes the whole grief process, because if I speak to them before they pass over, they know which body they've got the opportunity to come back into. So I can say to the parents, your cat is coming back as a dog. It's going to look like this with the colour pattern. Around this time, it should be back in your home. So you need to start looking now. And it's just so funny because some of them come back looking exactly the same. Some of them are completely different. They might be a different breed, different sex, different colour. But it's just absolutely phenomenal. You recognise something on a soul level about them when they come back.
That's what it is. I think that's what it is with Daisy. It's something like when she comes to visit us, and she does it like she'll be gone for a couple of days, but then she'll come and she'll hang around for a couple of days. And there's just something in there. There's almost like this connection.
And the other thing I'm thinking is that sometimes our animals in spirit actually send other animals to us to help us heal.
Yeah.
And so, you know, someone's lost a dog and then a little while later they find a puppy. And that's a question I get asked. Did you send so-and-so to me? And quite often it's yes, because they know that they weren't coming back, but they knew that their parents needed to have another animal to love. And that's just beautiful as well. So the fact that you had the 2 cats sitting there together, they're obviously communicating. And whether Shadows told Daisy, look, Mum needs to have a cat around the house, please go as often as you can to give us some love. That's one option, but there's certainly a connection between the 2 of them.
Yeah, and it does feel that way. And you know, just going a little bit further into it, it's almost like Daisy has, this is going to seem really out there, it does to me anyway, but she's almost like changed her look. She's starting to look more like Shadow than she did.
Yep. Just going all buzzy. So I would say,
freaky.
Hey, yeah. No. It's really interesting because I've had someone else with the same thing. Her cat wanted to come back, but he knew that she really wanted a particular colour cat.
Oh,
so he's come back in that cat, and she's so happy. She recognises him, but now his coat's changing completely differently and going back to what he was last time.
Wow, yes.
So I'd probably tune into them more just to see, but I'm getting absolute confirmation about that. So it's not out of the range of possibility for Daisy to have let Shadow's soul come into her so that she has got some time with you.
Fascinating, Annie. Fascinating. Yep. Thank you for answering those questions. I appreciate that. But also, like I said, it gives the ladies who are in the group or watching this almost like a live example. So I'm curious as to when your clients come to you, what exactly are they coming to you, and how do you help them?
Okay. So up till now, I've been doing a process where I've got my business details up on my website and my Facebook pages and LinkedIn. And so people can just email me if they're interested in a reading, and then I can explain more about it. I read from photographs, so I don't need to see the animal. And so people just email me the photo of the animal. I just like seeing their faces with the eyes. And their questions, and then I have a conversation with the animal, and then I write up the report of what the animal said and send it back to them. But it's interesting now because I'm getting questions from people who actually want to have a Zoom contact with me first and actually meet me and see me and sort of find out a bit more about what I do before they proceed to book the reading. So I'm looking at changing how I do that, so I've got more relationship building with clients. And because I know you're trusting your precious animal to someone and you just don't know anything about them. I get that. So I'm looking at doing that, sort of having a conversation about having a conversation before doing the reading. So sometimes people want to know about behaviour issues, if the animals change behaviour or health issues. And another thing I've discovered in my journey is that animals take on health symptoms for us, and it's their way of supporting us. So when I was going on my book writer's retreat to write my books, I had a really bad chest infection before I went. A couple of days later, my cat had a chest infection, and he's an indoor cat, not interacting with anyone else. There's no way he could have got a chest infection from anywhere apart from taking it on energetically for me. And so I had to then get him better and me better before I went, but he knew what I was going to do, so he wanted me to be as well as possible before I went. So that's what they do. And so sometimes when I'm working with people and I find that out, the animal needs some healing support, and so does the human. So I've started doing distance healing. So I make big crystal grids and charge them up with energy to support people and animals. and I do Reiki, I do crystal therapy, I do aromatherapy, so I can do a range of things to send the energy to whoever needs it. So one of my lovely clients, Pussycat client, was supposed to go and have major hip surgery. They'd discovered that he'd had malformed hips and he had some fractures in his hips, sort of a degenerative condition. But because of COVID, the parents weren't able to take him to where he was going to be having the surgery. It was about 3 hours away from where they lived. So I made up this big grid for him, and I was activating it to keep the energy flowing to him and sending the healing. My cats spent a lot of time activating the grid as well, so they knew what it was for. And at one stage, they even went and put a toy mouse in it, which I thought was so cute. So having that playful energy in it as well.
Wow.
Anyway, the day came when they were finally allowed to take him up, so they dropped him off and he had to have x-rays first just to see what had happened with the deterioration from when he'd last been seen. And when the mum got home, she got a call to say, can you come back? And they'd done the x-rays and everything had completely healed. So no fractures, no deformities of the bone, no nothing. There was no surgery that they needed to do. And he'd had that condition for 2 years.
Wow.
And so she can't explain that any other way than the fact that this grid was sending him energy plus me sending him the healing. So that was just such a potent story. So I just love working with the crystals and sending that energy as well. Some people want to find out what their animal would think if they get a new animal into the household, because that will change the energy completely. Or if they're going to have a partner coming into the house, or if they're going to be bringing a baby home, or if they're actually going to move home and go somewhere else. So all of those things affect the animal because you are their world. So any changes in your behaviour or your time that you spend with them affects them. So I had a little dog I spoke to who'd been diagnosed as being depressed, and he'd been put on dog Valium, and he was normally happy and perky and playful, and he was just really sad and morose. So I spoke to him and I said, what's the problem? And he said, the problem's not me, it's mum. And she'd lost 3 friends in close succession. They'd all passed away, and she was deeply grieving. And because she was grieving, she wasn't interacting with her dog the same way that she had been. Wow. And so his behaviour changed. And once she recognised that when she got told what the problem was, so she changed her behaviour. He changed his behaviour within 24 hours, and then he got safely weaned off the medication, and now they're both back to normal.
Oh, right.
You've just got to think all the time that, you know, what you're seeing on the surface with someone, it's the same with humans with issues. You're seeing a physical manifestation of something that may be emotional or mental in origin, and unless you dig down and find out what's really going on, you're just putting a Band-Aid on the top. So
getting a lot of comments coming through saying, wow, just wow.
Okay.
And I agree. Wow, just wow.
Can I tell you another wow story?
Oh, please. You know, honestly, you know, Annie, we could be here for hours.
I know, but this is a recent wow story, and it is a really wow story. So I think it was last week I got to speak to a cat who'd passed over. Very beautiful cat, very close relationship with her mum, and she's determined to come back as a dog, and she wants to come back as a Scotty dog. So I looked up Scotty dogs just to see what they look like, Scottish Terriers. And I found there were different patterns of them. So I found out from her what colour pattern she's going to come back as. And she's coming back as a boy. So she's not going to be the diva queen boss of the house anymore. And so I've got a few more questions that answered from her. And then I said, is there anything else you want to tell mum? And she said, tomatoes. And I thought, what is that? And I've learned in animal communication that when you get messages, it's not my job to understand or interpret them or doubt that I'm hearing the right thing. I've just got to give the message to the parent and say, this is what your animal said. What does it mean? Anyway, so I said to her, what does that mean? And she said, it's a test. So she wouldn't tell me. So I thought, okay, I'll look up and see whether dogs are allowed to eat tomatoes. So anyway, I did a Google search. And yes, dogs can, as long as they're red and ripe and there's no leaves, stems or flowers. On that page, as the illustration, is a Scotty dog with a bowl of tomatoes. And I thought, this stuff happens to me all the time. So I know it sounds really weird, but it's just confirming that she's definitely coming back as a Scotty dog. Wow. So I told this to mum and I said the bit about tomatoes, and she said, oh, Annie, tomatoes are my favourite thing. I eat them every day, and the cat would know that. So that's the cat letting her know it's definitely her that I'm speaking to in spirit. And that's what they do. I know, you go all goosey. I know, and that's what they do all the time. They tell me stuff I've got no way of knowing. Like I'm talking to an animal who's in spirit, and I'm not talking to the human, so I'm not picking up any information from the human. It's just what the animal tells me.
And I think that's the thing, isn't it? You know, quite often, you know, when you've got human mediums or communicators, there's a skepticism there, because you can go and Google a human and find out information. But you can't do that much about a cat. I'm curious, Annie, and what about skeptics? Do you have a lot of people come to you and they're skeptical, or?
I went to the RSPCA Pet Expo down at the Gold Coast a couple of years ago, and there were 7,000 people through the gates. Wow. And I struggled to get people to come and have a conversation. Really? So you could just see them looking at all the stuff I had out, and they just think, too weird. So that one of the Channel 7 reporters actually interviewed me before one of the shows just to try and help promote me. But I think it was just the population that were there weren't just spiritually aware enough to embrace what I was doing. So people need to understand that their animal does have a soul. And a lot of people I've spoken with say, oh, they're just a pet. Like, yes, they might understand no or sit or walk, but they don't really understand that they're a soul just like us. They happen to have come this lifetime as an animal. They may have come sometimes before as a human, and we may have come sometimes before as an animal. So it's just, I'm just finding out more and more about this stuff. And like when I have a conversation like with your two cats you were talking about, and you just unravel things, you just think it's weirder than fiction. But that's what you find when you wake up to your spiritual purpose and you see the world through whole different eyes. Things just happen. And my cats have let me experience a whole lot of things that I've never experienced before, just so that I would understand it and then write about it in my books, and then be able to help people to understand it as well. But more and more people know. Sorry? I
was going to say, speaking of your books, yes, tell us more about them, because I'm really curious. That might help the skeptics if there's any skeptics.
So this is my gorgeous boy who took on the chest infection for me. And so this was my first book, and that's really was a big part of my soul purpose, because animals are my passion, and my purpose is to raise global awareness about the importance of animals so that people understand them on a deeper level. So in this, I write about their soul journeys, because their souls come to have an experience on earth just like we do, and they've got lessons they need to learn, and they're with us for a reason. So it's no coincidence we get them. We might think we're rescuing them, but in fact sometimes they're rescuing us.
I agree.
And I talk about what to do with welcoming a new animal into the house, especially if you've got other existing animals. And the thing I've been told is that, you know, if you bring home a new kitten and a new puppy and you're just fawning all over it, please go and do that out of the sight of your existing animals, because they just don't like you smothering that new animal in love when they're used to you smothering them with love. So it's really important, just as a slight side point, that if you do bring a new animal home, that you try and do your bonding with that animal out of sight for the other ones for a while, but still try and keep your routine with your existing animals, because they rely on routine. So they still want that one-on-one time with you. And so I spoke to a lady who had 2 dogs, and she wanted to bring home a kitten, and she wanted the dogs to love the kitten. And when I spoke to the first dog and I said, what can mum do to make you like the kitten? And the dog said, love me more. That was
wow.
Nothing like a pecking order. Dog with attitude. Anyway, she was funny, but that's what she meant, that she just, you know, wanted to still keep feeling that love from her mum. Sometimes our animals think that we've done something wrong, and you've had to go and get another animal because you don't love them the same anymore. So it's really important to tell them, look, I'm bringing home a new animal. It's not because I don't love you. It's because I've got the capacity in my heart to love another animal.
Wow.
So that's really important. Yeah. And so I also talk about the benefits of animal communication. So it's not a book about how to be an animal communicator, but I talk about that. I also talk about some things to support people when it's time to say goodbye to your animal as well. That was really hard for me to write, because I wrote about 2 of my cats passing over. So that was, my publisher said it would be very healing to do that, but I just cried so much writing it. And then, of course, I had to keep rereading it again every time I had to edit the manuscript. Anyway, he said that would be really healing for other people as well, just to let some of that grief out. And so I did that. I also spoke to some animals in the wild just to talk about the issues that they face on a daily basis. and it's not particularly pleasant, but I wanted to tell their stories in their words. That's just so more powerful, like trophy hunting and poaching, all of those things. And some people are just completely unaware of that and the impact it has on the animals and the impact on their families. So that's their stories in their words, just to honour them. I had some very special conversations with 2 lions, one who's a very special white lion, and they're holding very special energy on the planet for us. And the other one was Cecil, the lion who got killed in America. He was lured out of his reserve and killed, and that raised an international furor. Anyway, he's a very humble lion, but speaking to both of them with their advice for humans was just absolutely fascinating. And then I'll just finish up with some practical things that we can do to help support animals, and I call that the return to Eden, because I think we can make a real difference, but we're running out of time. And so people need to wake up, and that's what I'm trying to do with this book, is to help people understand that they're here for a reason, to help us. And if we help them, then they're going to be helping us.
Oh, love it, Annie. I don't know how many times we have spoken today. I've gotten goosebumps. You've got another book?
And that's my second book, Evolving Hearts and Souls, The Guide to Spiritual Awakening. So when I woke up, I suddenly had clairvoyant visions of people. So I'd be having a conversation with someone like you, and I could suddenly see into your past and I could see into your future. And I'm thinking, what is this? And what am I supposed to do with it? And at the time, New Age things weren't really in. And I spoke to a few people and they just said, oh, no, don't dabble in that. So I stopped. And then years later, someone found me a course on spiritual development. So I went to that, and that just opened up a whole lot more gifts as well. And because I didn't really have like a dummy's guide to what to do when you suddenly have your spiritual awakening, and I didn't even know it was a spiritual awakening at the time, I thought I'd write this about some of the experiences that I've had, just to make it easier for other people going on their journey, so you don't think you're crazy when all this weird stuff happens. So I talk about soul journeys again, the energetic body, your spirit guides, healing, lots of different things, just to help people. It could be read in any order, but people are having activations from reading both books. So I've had people who can suddenly hear their animals when they've read my animal book. It's helped switch their communication channel on and they can hear them. And with the awakening one, the spiritual awakening one, they've had things happen as well. So
beautiful, Annie. I'm really fascinated. So if any of our audience would like to get either a copy of either of your books, or they would like more information on how they can work with you, let us know how they can get in touch.
Okay. If they're in Australia and they would like the paperbacks, I'm happy for them to contact me, and I can write a dedication in the book from their animal for them. So they can email me a photo of the animal, and then I can send them the book. And so that makes it really special. Or you can get the books and the ebooks online from Amazon.
I am going to do exactly that. I'm making a commitment publicly here. I would love that. I'd love to get a book personally from you. That would be awesome.
Okay. And then to find me, my website is www.cosmicheartintuitive, all as one word, .com.au. So that's my business name, Cosmic Heart Intuitive. My business Facebook page is Cosmic Heart Intuitive. And then my personal page, Facebook page, where I do a lot of posts about animals, is just Annie Bourke, Bourke. And I'm also on LinkedIn, if any of your listeners are on LinkedIn, and it's the same thing, Annie Bourke. So those 4 different places people can find me. They can message me from all of those. And I'm happy to have a chat with people if they want to find out more about what I do.
So if you would like, maybe after we've had this interview, just to pop maybe your main link, where people, maybe website link, I might suggest people can either order the book or get in touch with you. That would be awesome. Just to make it easy for our audience. But honestly, Annie, like I said, I don't want to end the conversation because I could talk about this forever. My spirituality over the last few years has been really developing. So when we connected, and we connected when Shadow did pass, I just really became so fascinated with what you do, and I really thank you. I thank you for the way you had a little bit of help in my healing, and I thank you for what you've shared today and for what you do with how you help other animals and their parents, I would say, as well. So yes, thank you so much. I really appreciated your interview today.
Thank you. And I should just say, I just launched yesterday my premium animal mediumship package. I haven't got details about that up on the web yet, but people can message me about that. It's a program where they work with me individually for 8 to 12 weeks. We do a couple of mediumship sessions. I do a distance healing session for them, help them through the grief process, help their other animals at home through the grief process as well, and help them to know more about their animal on a much deeper level. So if people want to find out more, they can message me.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for today, Annie. Absolutely
Pleasure.
fascinating. Cannot say that enough. Again, ladies, watch out for, just after this interview, Annie's going to pop her links in the chat, and we will see you again next week on our Showcase Your Biz Member Spotlight. If you are interested in being interviewed within the group, please send me a private message and we will organise time to do so, to catch up, and we'll book in a time for you to be interviewed. Always on Thursday mornings at 9:30 Adelaide time. Thanks again, Annie, and we will see you other beautiful ladies in the group throughout the week.